Hello everyone, my name is Pradipta Kumar Das, uh, and today is actually a very auspicious day for me because I was born on this day, 11th of May 1962, in a small town called Keuzur in Odisha in India, and today I have become just 60 years old. Um, Today I decided to inaugurate my YouTube channel uh, because this is such an auspicious day. Of course, I have gone a little bit public with my story earlier. This is my second attempt. The first attempt was I wrote a book, in the title Power of the Universe Lies Within You, which is published by Patridge, which is basically a Penguin Random House company, and it was published in November 2015. Now, today my main intention is to, to reach out to as many people across the globe with a mission. The mission is that, that awareness about what we do with our life and how some, wrong decisions in our life can cause a tremendous amount of stress and can create havoc in our lives, misery, sufferings in our lives, and how we can, try to avoid that. Because I have gone through all that in my 60 years of time. I mean, I will come back with a story, which is a real story. During my PhD, I was doing in Australia. So from that, you can assess what can be, the dangerous effect of stress. So my main intention of this YouTube channel is to reach out to millions and millions across the globe of all ages, of all caste, creed, religion, region, everyone, from small children to old age people, to have a different perspective of life, so that we can reduce our stress level and live a much better, meaningful life. To give a small brief introduction about me, I have completed about 37 plus years in a petroleum industry, working for a national or rather multinational oil company from India. And I did, postgraduate studies in India in two of the top institutions, IIT Kharagpur and IIT ISM Dhanbad. And then I moved to Australia while being in job, taking sabbatical. After I think I worked for 12 years, and I joined in 85, and then up to 97 I was there. And then in 97, I was having a small family of a daughter, or is it about 2.5 years, my wife. So we decided, or rather I thought, no, let me try to fulfill my dream, childhood dream of achieving a PhD from a very well-reputed university across the world. I mean, from the westernized, modern, developed world. And I got an opportunity with a postgraduate, overseas postgraduate research fellowship from Australian government to do a PhD in University of Adelaide. That those days it was called National Centre of Petroleum Geology and Geophysics. I moved there in 1997 and was there for 4 years. Now, why I'm saying is that this particular period was so vital for me, because before that I was very normal kid, a happy, absolutely happy person. I was cruising along life, but I was very ambitious, of course, to reach the ladder of success, whatever success means to us, all of us. So that definitely was there in me. But what happened in Australia created a tectonic shift, a paradigm shift in my life about the perspective of life. It was earlier pure scientific materialism, and then I think what happened was it was shifted sometime in 1999, 2000 to more towards scientific spiritualism. Though I was originally a very religious and spiritual person right from my childhood, but there was no such real distinction, because until and unless you really face a major crisis, you don't really discern about what life is. So that's actually happened. I'll come with the detailed story about what happened. And my mission of this particular YouTube channel is that, to create an awareness that how in the modern day world, we are going through tremendous amount of stress at a level where even the kindergarten children are going through stress. Not to talk of the working professionals, or the oldest diseased people into the late 70s and 80s. So all across the age group, people are undergoing tremendous amount of stress. So my main mission here is basically to help whatever I have learned in my 60 years of life, to spread an awareness about what sort of decisions we should take at critical juncture of life. And even if we really land up in trouble, the way I landed up in trouble, which is, I'll tell you about, it's a real serious crisis I faced, and then still, there is hope we can overcome that. I'll now come back to the story. I went in 1997 July. So it's nearly, well, how many years? 25 years? Yeah, 25 years back to Australia to do my PhD, taking sabbatical from organization. For nearly about a year and a half, or nearly, about 14, 15 months, I was on the top of the world. Like, all my things were going right for me. I had a childhood dream that, I should go to some developed country or modern country where in a very reputed university I'll do my, higher studies with a PhD. And this was an opportunity for me. And then the scholarship was quite good. I could take my family with me. So everything was, just superb. I was in a heavenly pleasure. Now, what happened in just, nearly about 2 years from that heavenly pleasure level, I went to rock bottom, the oceanic bottom of hellish misery. And the reason, I'll go in details a little later, that happened all because of me, because all the decisions I took was basically by me. So I can't blame anybody here. Now, whatever it is, the circumstances could be, the trigger, the upbringing could be the trigger, the genetics could be the trigger, whatever. But it was all me. Now, when I landed up in that problem, then I thought, I have to overcome that problem through my own methods, and then, come out with some success which can perhaps I can share when the time comes. So now I'm superannuating in 2 months' time, so I'll devote my time, giving back to the society. So that's the main mission of my life here. So it's basically stress and how and what causes stress, how we can avoid stress, and if at all, if we really land up in stress, very stressful conditions, how to overcome that. So that is my ultimate goal of this particular YouTube channel. And I will come with a video almost every week till I retire, and then after that I'll come more often. I'll increase the frequency as we go along. I want to make it a little more interactive because I want you all people to listen to me and give some comments so that I learn from you, and then we go along. Let me also tell you, in the meanwhile, what I have done. I have started interacting in the Quora and Medium, mostly in Quora. I am trying to spend at least 1 hour every day asking, or rather answering to questions which are thrown at me in this particular field. And during this period from 1999 till today, I have been gathering as much knowledge, information, skills, techniques that is required to counter stress and to remain drug-free. Now, coming to the actual story, it was 6th July 2000. 6th July 2000. Before that, a little bit about what happened before that. We planned for a second child in Australia. So that was before we stepped to Australia. We thought, okay, we have a daughter, we'll go there, we'll try our second child there. So that was the original plan. Now, when I started my PhD, I thought, this PhD work was a little tough for me, coming from a very humble background, doing research in a very reputed university. I don't know whether I can really complete my PhD or not. So that, that thought started generating unconsciously in my brain sometime, around the middle of my tenure, a PhD tenure. Initially, I went for 3 years, which was extended for 4 years, to 4 years. What happened is that we planned for our second child, and towards December 1998 to January 1999, I started feeling the stress to look after my family, and to the incoming child, and then attend to the pressures of research, of PhD research. So after some time, we thought, and of course there were some events internationally. That time the Pokhran 2 blasts were there. I was in Australia, thousands of kilometers away, but somehow the nationalistic urge, nationalistic feelings, surged within me. I don't know why. Then there was Indo-Pak Kargil war. And then there was also the Balkan War, which is going on, the NATO bombing in the Serbian, Croatia, Herzegovina area. So there was a war going on in Europe. So those international events, and I was, going through all that in the internet. So perhaps all those mixed, drove me to decide that my child should be born in India, not in Australia, though originally we had planned in Australia. So my wife left sometime, I think, in the month of April 1999, and here I am completely alone in Australia. 6 months I was there, all alone. And during these 6 months, what happened is that I was not able to concentrate on my research. So the stress was building up. It's a vicious cycle. I was, having no productivity, rather very less productivity, and that was feeding the loop into my stress. So the stress was building up, my productivity is going down. The stress was building up, the productivity is going down. So it's a vicious cycle. Ultimately, I had planned to come back to India to take my family back when my child was around 2.5 months. Beautiful, cute looking son. But with that also, when we landed back in Australia in November 1999, I found that I didn't still have the energy, the enthusiasm which I originally had. As I told you, I was in the heavenly pleasure, but it was not there. So somehow I was not getting the vigor, the zeal to work. Then sometime in the month of May 2000, I had an international conference to attend to present part of my research work. I think worked 2 nights throughout the night, but I attended that conference, but by that time I was so exhausted. I thought perhaps it's now high time that I should consult a doctor. So I went to my general physician, who, without perhaps much thought, what he did, he prescribed antidepressant, pyroxetine, so Aropax, 1 tablet a day. Of course, he told me that I am a general practitioner, so you kindly look for a specialist, psychiatrist. So what I did is then immediately I consulted a lady psychiatrist. She said, okay, this medicine is fine. I mean, it's an antidepressant, which is a common antidepressant. You can take it, but remember, you will not get results at least for 4 to 5 weeks. So you have to wait till 4 to 5 weeks till the results come in. But what happened actually? There was absolutely no result. I was thinking that by popping a pill, I'll get that energy back. It was absolutely not correct. The medication was wrong actually. And I in hindsight, I learned all that. The medication was wrong. The diagnosis was wrong. So what happened that, after about 4 to 5 weeks, when I was not getting any result, I thought, let me take a preemptive action, proactive action or preemptive action. I consulted my lady psychiatrist again. So do you think that I should increase the doses to, bring in more results? Because I was not having any result. So she said, yeah, you can increase the doses. So I said, shall I take 1 pill in the morning and 1 pill in the evening? What do you suggest? Or 2 pills at the same time? She said, yeah, people do it either way, so you can do. So she was non-committal. She was not giving me any concrete decision. And at the same time, the medication which I was going through, that antidepressant medication, pyroxetine, was completely wrong. Then what happened is that I increased the doses on the third day, that is on 6th of July 2000, when I came back from the uni at around 5:30, when I entered into my room, into my house, I was not able to walk. I was so completely energyless, drained out completely. I was, not able to walk. My goodness, I still remember those days. Then, somehow I, went to my bedroom and, crawled on my bed, thought I should just relax. Then, I think I have a cup of tea and something. Then after that, I was lying on my bed around 8:30 with my lights on. When I was lying on my couch, the bed, I slept off with my lights on. Now, from 8:30 till 11 o'clock in the night, I had perhaps one of the most sound sleep ever I had in the last 2-3 months. So when I got up, just before I got up, I will describe a very typical experience I had. And perhaps there will be no scientific explanation. In fact, my lady psychiatrist couldn't understand what really happened. She gave some ideas, of course. I have written all that in my book. Now, what happened when I was sleeping, I was in deep sleep. Suddenly I felt that my heart area, it was completely drying up. It was shrinking and it was drying. Absolutely, the energy was, completely drying up. And at the same time, I was feeling that something from the top right, forehead corner, some kind of, blissful energy, very blissful energy was piercing through my body and filling up the drying heart. And I was enjoying that. This is kind of a nectar-like honey I was enjoying while in the sleep. But suddenly I got a thought that I'm enjoying the nectar-like honey too much, so I'll be perhaps termed as a greedy person. So I took a jerk and got up. I woke up and straight went to my wife, who was in the kitchen. I said, no, look, I have decided the title of the book, which I have been planning anyway. So the title of the book would be From a Bizarre Indian to Reincarnation of Christ. And that was 2000 July, just remember. Now, my wife said, no, the title doesn't look nice, so you can call it From Bizarre Geophysicist to, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know why she said so, but that was the situation. Then after that, I think I went to sleep back again at around 12 o'clock. From 12 to 4 in the midnight, suddenly I had another typical sensation. It was so horrible. I couldn't really understand. I felt that now I'm going to finish. My soul is now going out of my body. That's the kind of feeling I had. So what I did, my family was sleeping in the other room. So I went to my wife. I woke her up and held her hand. I said, few of small last wishes will fulfill, and then I am going. And that was, oh my goodness, you cannot imagine that kind of scenario. And my wife was traumatized. She was looking at me. What has happened to this man? And my 2 kids were sleeping on the bed. So then suddenly a thought came to my mind. The agent of death is now taking me. Now if I hold on to her hand, perhaps he will take both of us. So what I did, I left her hand. And I thought, my children will be parentless, so at least somebody should be there. Then another thought came to me, let me try some other method. I went to my, the drawing room where I started, doing some jogging, some exercises with a thought that perhaps I'll become normal. But nothing was happening. And by the time, of course, my wife came along, and then it was so serious that I can't describe. What happened was, one moment it was kind of a hot, warm blood was flowing throughout my body, and the next moment it was getting cold. Hot and cold, hot and cold. My goodness. And I had absolutely no clue what was going on inside my body. Then I said, perhaps it's time for me. Now suddenly one thought came. I don't know where from. It's a conscious thought or subconscious thought. I don't know, but definitely it's a subconscious thought. In hindsight, I can understand that. That look, I am still breathing, so I'm alive. So that means my heart is perhaps pumping, because if I hot and cold means my heart is pumping, I'm breathing, so I'm alive, so I'm comfortable. And that single thought brought my condition straight back to normal. And immediately I went to the telephone, called up the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, where my neighbor actually used to go there because he also had some mental health issues. So I knew that Queen Elizabeth Hospital. I just rang them up asking for an ambulance. And in the meanwhile, my wife was so worried, she called the neighbor also. And she was Joan Harris. She entered the room after about 10-15 minutes, I think. The moment she entered the room, what I did, I just put my hands around her, embraced her, very strongly. She is a 50-year-old little bulky lady, and I went to her ear and spoke in her ear that you are Lady Queen Mary, I think, Queen Mary, and I'm Jesus. So don't worry. So you don't think that you are a what you call. We used to have some discussions that she was a kind of an abandoned child. She had a very bad childhood. So don't worry. You are the Mother Mary, and I am Jesus Christ. So that's the kind of level where I reached. And then she got scared. She is a mental ill person. She got scared. What is this PK is doing? She used to call me PK. Then, of course, by the time the ambulance came, the ambulance took me, and the moment I entered, I think I forgot to mention one thing. When I was embracing her, I found that my body, which was completely energyless, was being filled with some energy fluxes from the universe. And it was some kind of a feeling which perhaps unless otherwise somebody really experiences it, he can't understand. So it was universal fluxes was some kind of electrical energy was entering my body and charging my body, and I was feeling much better and better, and I was embracing her. And for a few minutes, I think I did it. And then by the time the ambulance came, I was feeling quite comfortable. I went into the ambulance in a secured environment. There were nurses in the ambulance. So I started talking as if I'm a very normal person. I went to the hospital in the emergency ward, and then I started talking with the doctor that, as if I'm absolutely all right. This happens with most of the mentally ill patient, that they don't want to accept that. Anyway, so the doctor found me perhaps reasonably okay. Then I said, do you want some help in treating some patients? I feel like I am having some supernatural power. So he could understand that. Then he said, no, don't worry, I will handle my patients. So after a few minutes, when he came back, I requested him that allow me, because I'm feeling quite all right. So I took a cab back to home, and that morning. And then I went to the uni also without really realizing that what was going on. That the medication was wrong, the increase of doses was wrong, and already 3 days was gone. I think then I also took the pills without consulting my psychiatrist what has gone wrong. Neither, of course, I went to the general physician. So what I did, I again popped up the two pills, went to the uni, and wrote some vengeful emails to one of my lady colleague from PhD colleague from New Zealand, and I had some subconscious feeling that she was a little bit of a racial bias. I could be wrong. We all have those kind of feelings about others. So I may be completely wrong. If I'll not take her name. If she comes across this, she'll understand. Of course, we are still in car. We love each other. It's not that I was a married person anyway. So now what happened is that I did some mails and then came back home around 1:30, 2 o'clock. The time when I come back to home, which is about half a kilometer away from my uni center, and to take lunch. And in the meanwhile, also I used to go to take my daughter from the school, which was again another couple of kilometers away. But that day, what happened that I somehow drove my car to the house, perhaps rang the bell, but I didn't enter the house. What I did, I came to the street, which is, Ballantyne Street. I was in 1 by 21 Ballantyne Street in Theverton campus. So that street, about a distance of about 50 meters, I started pacing from one end to the other, looking at this midday's sun, and straight I was looking at the sun. And generally we know that looking at the sun, that is not good for eyes. But that moment, I don't know, this is all perhaps destined to happen. When I was looking at the sun, I was finding the sun disk was moving around in clockwise direction once, and in very rapid speed, and then in the anti-clockwise direction just the next moment. And as if, and it was creating a thought, perhaps there was some gravitational pull of sun on the earth, gravitational pull, and perhaps it will attract slowly, the distance will come down. That was a thought automatically getting generated when I was pacing along. And in the meanwhile, my wife was so scared neither to leave her husband on the street, and the daughter is stuck up in the school. Anyway, what she did, she took the cab, called for a cab, and went and picked up my daughter, who was standing alone. The entire school was gone. So she brought her back. She somehow pushed me inside the house, and then what I observed, that was almost, I think, 3 o'clock or something like that. I could understand my conscious brain was completely, it has collapsed. It was not working at all. And what I was doing, I was looking at the clock in the wall clock, and I was observing the wall clock. What was happening? The arms of the clock was rotating in the anti-clockwise direction at a very tremendously high speed. This time it was not not two ways. The clock was going in only the anti-clockwise direction, as if it is going back to starting point of time, 0. And I think I can deduce some philosophical meaning that 0 and that sun attracting, if we can combine, that we all know that we all came from sun. We all came from sun. So perhaps it is that which is so beautifully recorded in our each cell, in the cosmos and in the cosmic human being, the Homo sapiens, that if necessary we can decode this. Of course, there are big scientists which are working in different fields like astrophysics, astrobiology, and all that. So we'll not go into that in this particular introductory session. So then what happened is that I was looking at the clock. I said, now look at the clock, look at the sun. Look at the clock, look at the sun. My wife is, she can give the testimony to it. And then, of course, I have recorded in the book also. Now, that, of course, scared my wife to that hilt, and she called for the ambulance. And obviously, I was not going. I was not interested to go. People just forced me inside the ambulance, dragged me, and when we went into the hospital, I was looking at my wife and said, "What are you doing? You're not throwing me and abandoning me." And my wife was so worried. So I thought, what must have been going through her with a small kid in her lap, in a 3 or 3.5 years old daughter. Then what happened? There's another interesting thing happened. So when the doctor and the nurses examined me, they could understand, of course, they asked me the medication, I told, then they could understand that what has gone wrong. So what they did, they said, okay, we'll give you some pills. Now I thought that here is the time when Jesus is being crucified. So I paced my back a little bit towards the wall, and in this standing posture right against the wall. But at the same time, there was another thought. If at all I want to survive, perhaps this medication can help. Though I may be poisoned, like the way Jesus was crucified, I may be poisoned, but At the same time, there is only hope if I can survive is by taking medicine. So I pulled out my tongue and I took the medication. And I think it was a tranquilizer, initial tranquilizer. So it made me to sleep for about 6 to 7 hours, and I had a beautiful sleep. When I got off, I felt, almost 10% relieved or 20% relieved. My logical brain started working. Then when I looked at, the hospital inside, I found, my goodness, horrible condition people, mentally ill patients, very high degree. And in that comparison, I was nothing. I mean, I was much better. But of course, the heaviness was there. So no, that is kind of a detention center, so that you don't become violent or all that. Now, I stayed there for about, I think, a week, and a whole week I was there, and then I was following all the rules of the hospital. But on the second day, that the day when I started feeling better, I decided that I'll write a book on my journey, what happened to me, and then also discuss about how I overcame, if at all I overcome, because I was not knowing what will happen. But after that, I had a period of about 1.5 years in Australia. I went for a cognitive therapy session with my lady psychiatrist for about 45 minutes a week, every week. And of course, I was taking that antipsychotic drug, Respirodol, one small tablet. So that I continued for 1.5 years. And when I could finish my PhD thesis, again, a record time of 45 days, I wrote my thesis. I said, my wife said, you write and let us see what happens. So I wrote that, submitted my thesis, and then came back to India. What I did, I think a few days later, I went to a doctor in Dehradun just to confirm, because obviously from Australia to India, I should have some continuity. And but in the back of my mind, during this 1.5 years, though I was having severe panic attacks for the first 1 year, severe panic attacks, unbelievably miserable panic attacks. Those who really have experienced those panic attacks can understand it. My goodness, it is so bad, so bitter. Anyway, after that, it started improving. When it started improving, it gave me the confidence. Of course, I changed my lifestyle also in that 1.5 years. What I did, I completely took a break about 2 weeks with the help of a friend's advice who was in Sydney those days. He said, PK, take a break. So I took a complete break, 2 weeks. I simply considered my family, took my children to the park, did some, those days there were video cassette players. I collected a lot of, movies and, try to relax myself. And then when I started feeling better, I thought, no, I don't need medication. I will definitely go medication free. But when I consulted this doctor in Dehradun on my arrival in India, he said, he was a middle-aged, he was a very highly qualified doctor. He said, oh my goodness, don't do that, don't do that. If you take off your medication, then you may have to land up in such a serious problem that your doses will go 4 times. So whatever you are taking now, it will be 4 times. So that's what he said. I was very determined. I was very confident inside that I will handle this. And of course, over a period of a couple of years, I changed my lifestyle, totally changed my lifestyle, changed my thought process, brought in some of the relaxation techniques into my lifestyle, and then slowly I improved. Of course, it's a familiar environment of India, and I used to go to my family in Australia. Of course, I could only come to India for only once in 4 years. So those things, family environment, friends and all that, so slowly I picked up. And then I was medication free right after about a month of arrival in India. I, of course, consulted my lady psychiatrist. Look, Joe, her name was Joe Lamasma. I'm not interested to go for. Can I do that? She encouraged me. Yeah, you can do that. I mean, if you feel confident, you can do that. So hats up to my lady psychiatrist. Though she was non-committal in the beginning, she was also encouraging me. At one point of time, I said, I'll hell with my PhD. I'll start writing a book. She said, oh look, don't do that mistake. What do? You write down points. You can later work on your book, but write down points. concentrate on PhD. I think that's one marvelous advice he did. Of course, there are so many other things which I have written in my book. Today's introductory session is just to tell you the story about what happened to me, and from that, another, I think in 2001, September, August 2001, I came back. From that, almost 21 years now. 21 years, I've been enjoying life as a very normal person without any psychotic drugs, absolutely drug-free. Of course, I developed some other things like, mild cholesterol and all that. So those things, they are different. But these psychotic drugs or psychiatric drugs, completely free. So I thought, so it's so much of knowledge and experience. Now, why can't I share this with people across the world so that, somebody somewhere will get definitely some help from my experience. So that's the reason why I am launching this YouTube. I'll come back to you. And if you have really liked listening to my story and listening to the purpose, the mission for which I have opened this YouTube channel, please like my video and subscribe to my channel, and see you again in my next video. Namaste.